Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're talking about a logo, a brand identity so powerful it dominated global trade for centuries. I'm talking about the winged lion of St. Mark, the symbol of Venice. But this is no mere city mascot. This lion is a key, a map, and a silent guardian of a global empire built on salt, spice, and staggering ambition. To follow the trail of this lion is to trace the very arteries of international commerce, long before the world we know today. Let's unravel the story. The story begins not in Venice, but in the pages of sacred texts. Early Christian tradition assigned symbolic animals to the four evangelists, the writers of the Gospels. Matthew got a man, Luke an ox, John an eagle, and Mark got a winged lion. The lion represented the power of his words and the majesty of Christ's resurrection. This connection was cemented by a powerful local legend. The story goes that St. Mark himself, while traveling, was caught in a storm and took shelter in a fisherman's hut right there in the Venetian lagoon. An angel, appearing as a winged lion, came to him and said, "Pax tibi Marse, evangelista meus, hic requiescet corpus tuum," which means, "Peace be with you, Mark, my evangelist. Here your body will rest." This prophecy became the foundational myth for the city of Venice. But there was a problem. Mark's body wasn't in Venice. It was in Alexandria, Egypt, a city then under Muslim rule. So, in the year 828, two audacious Venetian merchants, Buono de Malamocco and Rustico da Torcello, decided to fulfill the prophecy themselves. They undertook one of history's most famous acts of holy theft. They smuggled the relics of St. Mark out of Alexandria, ingeniously hiding the body under a layer of pork in a cargo barrel to repel any inspection by the Muslim authorities. The arrival of the saint's body in Venice was a massive political and religious victory. It gave the city its very own patron saint of apostolic rank, a direct rival to Rome's St. Peter. And with the saint came his symbol. The winged lion was immediately adopted, becoming a sign of divine favor and Venice's soaring ambition. What began as a religious icon was officially adopted as the symbol of the Venetian state by the 13th century. It started appearing on coins, on flags, on the seals of the Doge, the leader of Venice, and on buildings all across the city. The lion was no longer just St. Mark's symbol. It was now the logo of the Venetian Republic, a globally recognized brand signifying power, justice, and commercial dominance. One of the brilliant things about the Lion of St. Mark was its flexibility. It wasn't a static logo. The Venetians used different versions of the lion to send very specific messages across their vast maritime empire. It was a visual language everyone could understand. The most common version is the standing winged lion, with one of its front paws resting on an open book. The book displays that famous angelic greeting, "Peace be with you, Mark, my evangelist." This lion was a declaration of Venetian sovereignty over land and sea. It broadcasted a message of just and enlightened rule to its subjects and allies. But peace was always backed by strength. In some depictions, the lion also holds an upright sword. This was a symbol of Venetian justice, and a not-so-subtle reminder that Venice was ready and willing to defend its interests by force. The message changed depending on the book. An open book meant peace. But a lion depicted with a closed book and holding a sword? That was a clear signal. Venice was at war. There were other forms, too. A lion depicted frontally, as if rising out of the water with its wings wrapping around its head, is called the lion in Moleka. This name comes from the Venetian word for a soft-shelled crab, which it sort of resembles. This version was an intimate symbol of Venice itself, the city born from the sea, forever vigilant. Then you had the lion on the move, walking with a paw raised, symbolizing the Republic's expanding influence. And finally, the rampant lion, reared up in an attacking pose, was an unmistakable message of pure military might. Seeing one of these lions on a city gate or fortress wall you knew exactly what Venice was trying to say. And this lion symbol was the face of an economic powerhouse. At its peak in the 15th century, Venice was a thalassocracy, a maritime empire. Its wealth and power came not from land, but from its absolute control of the sea. The city's geography, a cluster of islands and a defensible lagoon, made it a natural fortress and the perfect hub for trade. From here, Venetian merchants spun a web of commerce that connected Europe with the markets of the Byzantine Empire, Egypt, the Levant, and through them, the fabled spice routes of Asia. It all started with a humble but crucial commodity: salt. The salt flats in the lagoon gave Venice a product that everyone needed for preserving food. Venice quickly monopolized the salt trade, and the routes they established for salt became the superhighways for a much wider range of goods. Soon, Venetian ships were carrying everything. From the east, they brought back spices like pepper, cloves, and cinnamon that were literally worth their weight in gold. They also imported raw silk, cotton, precious stones, and magnificent carpets. In return, Venice sent European goods eastward: textiles, soap, paper, and perhaps most famously, the exquisite glass crafted in the furnaces of Murano. Crucially, Venice didn't let politics get in the way of profit. They maintained a pragmatic and often controversial trading relationship with the Islamic world, even when the Pope forbade it. As one Venetian ambassador famously put it, being merchants, we cannot live without them. The Republic's priorities were crystal clear. This vast trading empire was held together by a network of strategically placed colonies and trading posts. These weren't large settlements, but fortified ports and commercial enclaves where the Lion of St. Mark was always on display, a constant reminder of who was in charge. So if we follow the trail of the lion, where does it take us? Our first stop is the eastern coast of the Adriatic, what is now Croatia. This was one of the first areas Venice brought under its control to secure its trade routes and eliminate pirates. In cities like Zadar and Dubrovnik, you can still see countless stone lions carved into the city walls and gates. Next, we sail to the Greek islands. The island of Crete, which the Venetians called Candia, was a vital colony for over 400 years. At the entrance to the harbor of Heraklion, the massive Koules fortress still stands, and on it, an eroded but still imposing marble relief of the Lion of St. Mark. On other islands like Corfu, another of the eyes of the Republic, the lion still presides over the old fortress walls. Then we push further east, to Cyprus. Venice took control of the island in 1489. In the city of Famagusta, the magnificent sea gate, or Porta del Mare, is dominated by a large marble sculpture of the winged lion holding its gospel. This marked the easternmost edge of Venice's permanent territory, a crucial stop for trade with the Levant. But Venice's influence went even deeper into the east, through commercial enclaves known as fondaci. These were combination warehouses, inns, and markets in major trade hubs, where Venetian merchants could live, store their goods, and do business under the protection of their state. The fascinating thing is that this trade created a powerful cultural exchange. You can see it in the architecture of Venice itself. The distinctive ogee arches, intricate stonework, and grand central courtyards of many Venetian palaces were directly influenced by the Mamluk architecture of Egypt and Syria. This exchange went both ways. Wealthy Ottomans and Mamluks highly prized Venetian glass and textiles. In fact, the shared tastes in colors and patterns can sometimes make it hard to tell if a piece of fabric was made in Venice or in Bursa. This artistic cross-pollination, all facilitated by the trade the Lion of St. Mark protected, is one of the most enduring legacies of the Venetian Empire. This empire was built by a unique class of people. Unlike the land-based aristocracies of feudal Europe, the Venetian nobility was an oligarchy of merchant families who controlled everything. The state itself acted like a massive corporation, with the Doge as its CEO. To manage the incredible risks of long-distance trade, these merchants developed groundbreaking business practices. The most important was the colleganza, a form of limited partnership. One partner, the investor, would provide the capital for a voyage, while another partner, the traveling agent, would carry out the journey. They would then split the profits. This simple contract allowed for the pooling of capital and the spreading of risk, and it was a direct precursor to the modern joint stock company. The Venetian state actively supported this commerce. The Arsenal, a massive state-owned shipyard, was the largest industrial complex in the world at the time. It could mass-produce war and trade galleys using an assembly line process centuries before Henry Ford. The state also organized protected trading convoys called mood that sailed to specific destinations at set times of the year, providing security and a predictable flow of goods. They even established special courts to handle disputes involving foreign merchants, ensuring Venice remained a stable and attractive place to do business. The life of a merchant could be incredibly lucrative, but it was also harsh. A young man's training often ended with a long business trip, a rite of passage filled with danger. Life on a galley was cramped, filthy, and crawling with lice. Yet for those who succeeded, like Marco Polo, the rewards were immense, and their stories would inspire generations of explorers. Now, let's turn to the most iconic lion of all, the majestic bronze statue that stands on top of a granite column in the heart of Venice, the Piazzetta. For centuries, the origin of this statue has been debated. The prevailing theory was that it was an ancient Greek or Roman bronze, perhaps from the 4th century BC. But a recent scientific study, announced in 2024, has completely upended this belief. A team of researchers used advanced techniques to analyze the lead isotopes in the statue's metal. Think of this like a chemical fingerprint that can trace the copper ore back to its original mine. The results were astounding. The metal used for the oldest parts of the statue didn't come from the Mediterranean. It came from mines in the lower Yangtze River Basin, in China. This chemical evidence, combined with a fresh look at the statue's style, has led to a radical new hypothesis. Researchers now believe the Lion of Venice may have started its life as a zhenmushou, a type of mythological tomb guardian creature from China's Tang dynasty, which lasted from the 7th to the 10th century. These guardians were often hybrid creatures with lion-like features, and the Venetian statue shares some key stylistic traits with them, like its bulbous nose and grinning mouth. The theory is that this Chinese statue, already ancient, somehow made its way along the trade routes to Venice, where it was repurposed and modified to become the symbol of St. Mark. We don't know exactly how it got there. It was already in place when Marco Polo returned from his travels in 1295. One exciting possibility is that it was brought back by his father and uncle, who had visited the court of Kublai Khan decades earlier. This new theory adds a truly mind-bending layer to the lion's story. It suggests that the global connections of the pre-modern world were even more extensive than we imagined, and that Venice's role as a cultural crossroads was so profound that its most cherished symbol might have a secret history that stretches all the way to China. The 15th century was Venice's golden age, but it also marked the beginning of a long, slow decline. The very forces of global trade that Venice had championed would eventually bypass it. The first major blow was the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks in 1453, but the decisive turning point came in 1499. That's when Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama successfully sailed around Africa's Cape of Good Hope and reached India. This broke the Venetian monopoly on the spice trade. European merchants could now buy spices directly from the source, cutting out the Venetian middlemen. The discovery of the Americas by Venice's old rival Genoa further accelerated the shift of global commerce from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic. Locked into its sea, Venice found itself on the edge of a new global economy. Its reign as the queen of trade was over. But the lion's roar hasn't been completely silenced. Today, it's the emblem of the Venice Film Festival's highest prize, the Golden Lion. a symbol of artistic excellence recognized worldwide. It's also the logo of the insurance giant Assicurazioni Generali, a company born from the Venetian tradition of managing maritime risk. The stone and bronze lions that still stand guard in Venice and across its former empire are more than just historical artifacts. They are silent sentinels of a remarkable story, a story of a city that built a global network on a foundation of salt and audacity. They mark a map of ambition, a testament to a time when the roar of the Venetian lion echoed across the known world. Tracing the paw prints of this iconic beast reveals not just the secret of Venice's success, but the very blueprint of our interconnected world.